Good morning, Math 96. So happy March. We're going to do some notes today on factoring with patterns. On your note-taking guide, page 64. And specifically, we're going to do factoring the difference of squares with the magic X today. So difference of squares is called a pattern. So your essential question, if you can write that at the top of page 64. What is written for the middle term of a binomial to factor using the magic X? And by the end of this lesson, you should be able to say that you can enter 0x for the middle term so that you can use the magic X. You have homework tonight that will appear at the end of this video. It's out of the textbook, page 321. Please remember to skip number 39. And again, those problems, if you're new to this classroom, will appear at the end of the video. Okay. So please remember to use page 3 of your white note-taking guide in your notebook. Okay. So at the top of your paper there, let me grab a pen here. We're going to skip the perfect square trinomials, so we're only going to work in the top part. And over on the side over here, I just copied a couple of pages from that page 3 of your notebook to use. So at the top, the difference of squares, this is just a general formula. So I just want you to write this down. I want you to write a plus b and a minus b. And I'll show you what that means in a minute. For your first example, I need you to write down x squared minus 36. Now, as we've been doing our work all along, we've been working with trinomials. So you can change this, the x squared minus 36. You can change it so that it has a middle term. As long as I don't add anything to the original red problem, I'm okay. So I'm going to add 0x, which is the same as adding nothing. 0 times x would just be 0. So adding 0 to something doesn't change it. So you're going to think this, x squared plus 0x minus 36 for your magic x. So remember, you multiply the front and the back, and there's a hidden 1 right there. So what multiplies to negative 36 and adds to the middle 0, right? Because 1 times negative 36 is 36. Now you can look over here in our little chart. Which would add or subtract to 0? Obviously, the answer is 6 and negative 6, right? So we put whatever this first term is, so 1x plus 6 and 1x minus 6. And there's our answer, because 6 minus 6 is 0, and 6 times negative 6 is negative 36. So there's our final answer. So x plus 6 and x minus 6. Let me just clean this up a little bit. Now, what you can see here in the pattern up at the beginning, what I want you to notice is look how 1 is a plus and 1 is a minus. So that's going to be a pattern we're going to see all the time. So let's do another example. So if I give you a binomial and there's no middle term, it's okay to go ahead and write it with a 0 in the middle. And 0 would be 0x. So we're going to change it to that. And then we're going to do the magic x, right? So we're going to multiply the front and the back. And remember, the front number is a hidden 1. So what multiplies to negative 81 and gives us 0? And then you can see right here for 81, 9 and negative 9 would get us to a 0. We always write down this first term, right? So 1x positive 9 1x with negative 9, and there's our final answer. We don't have a lot of room for the final answer on this one. Sorry, you guys. So x plus 9 in one parenthesis, so one's a plus and one's a minus. That's our final answer. And we're going to skip this one. We're going to skip the perfect square trinomials, okay? We're not going to do those. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and do some problems. I'm going to hit pause because we need to change all 6 examples. So I'm going to give you a minute to write those down. So we're going to go ahead and not use these 2 examples. So please write down the new examples, x squared minus 9 and x squared minus 1. I'm giving you a minute to do that. And I apologize. It's just that I had to change up the lesson, and because we're not in school together, it's easier to teach it with this method. Okay, so remember, if it's a binomial, 2 pieces, magic x, you need trinomials, right? We need that middle piece for the magic x, right? So add 0x to the middle. So I'm just rewriting out a little bit of notes for you there. So binomials, 2 pieces. Magic x, we need trinomials, 3 pieces. So we're going to add that 0x in, okay? All right, you ready to go? I think I gave you enough time to write those problems down. All right, here we go. So we're going to rewrite 0x. So x squared, 0x minus 9, and then we're going to do the magic x. So we're going to multiply front and back. Remember, there's a hidden 1. 1 times negative 9. So what multiplies to a negative 9 but gets us to 0? We always write down the first term, 1x, 1x. So what multiplies to 9 and gets us to 0? It's going to be 3 and 3. Positive 3, negative 3 adds to 0 and multiplies to negative 9. So our final answer is x plus 3 and x minus 3. Okay. So I always put this one in the lesson for x squared minus 1. So we're going to rewrite it. So x squared plus 0x minus 1. And I always put this in because kids forget. So remember, multiply front and back. There's a hidden 1. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. We're going to do the magic x. So what multiplies to negative 1 and gets us to 0? And you always write down the front. So 1x, 1x. So what multiplies to 1? 1 and 1. So positive 1, negative 1. 1 minus 1 is 0, and 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. For whatever reason, sometimes students have a hard time with the problem that has the 1 in it. So I wanted to make sure I did that for you. Okay. So remember, the pattern here is one's a plus and one's a minus. Isn't that easy? It's called difference of squares. Okay, for example 3 and 4, again, I need you to go ahead and cross those 2 problems out. And we need to change these examples. I'll give you a minute to write those down. Okay, so we're going to rewrite it with a 0 in the middle. We're going to go ahead and do the magic x. Multiply front and back. 25 times negative 4 is negative 100. We're going to do the magic x. And remember, you have to write down whatever's in the front, right? So 25x, 25x, and we're going to have to divide out on your magic X, right? So what multiplies to 100 and gets us to 0? So here's your little chart. 10 minus 10 would be 0. So positive 10 and negative 10. Multiplies to negative 100 and adds up to 0. And now we have to divide out. So what can we divide by? You can divide by 5s. So remember, divide by whatever number you can. And in this case, the only number we can divide on both sides by is 5. So that would be a 5x plus 2. And this side would be a 5x minus 2. Okay, here's the next one. Add a 0 in the middle. Try your magic X. Multiply front and back. What multiplies to a negative 9 and gets us to 0? Whatever this front number is, we have to write it down. 9x, 9x. So what multiplies to 9 and gets us to 0? 3 and negative 3. 3 times 3. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9, and 3 minus 3 is 0. And then we have to divide out. What can you divide by? You can divide by 3's on both sides. And then we have our final answer. So 9 over 3 and 3 over 3 would be 3x plus 1. Dividing on the other side would be a 3x minus 1. Oops, sorry about that. Let me fix that with my eraser. And that's final answer. Oops. Let's try to move that. Okay, you can always hit pause here if you need a minute to get your notes caught up and then start the video again. We're going to do 2 more. Okay, we need to change these answers too. So cross these 2 out. Actually, we probably could have left number 5, but we need to change them anyways. Okay, so write down example 5 and 6. Okay, so I want you to rewrite this problem. What are the coefficients in front? It's a 1, x squared. Add your 0, and actually this is going to be a 0xy. Don't let that bother you. It's just 0 in the middle. And then I'm just going to fill in the hidden 1 in front of the y squared, right? So I'm filling in these hidden 1s. It's helpful, I think, for you to see that. So I filled in the hidden 1s, and I added a 0 in the middle. Don't be bothered by the xy. So add the 0, and then the magic x. So what multiplies to negative 1 and adds up to 0? We put whatever this is right here, 1x, 1x. Now, because we have y squared, we're going to add a y squared to the back. So I'm just kind of elevating your learning today a little bit. Just like you had x squared in the front and you write xx in the back, when we have y squared, we're going to add yy. Okay, so this is just a little bit of an elevated lesson. So let's go back to the magic x. What multiplies to 1 and gets to 0? So 1 and negative 1. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1, and 1 minus 1 is 0. And then add the y in. There's no division necessary. So the answer is just x plus y and x minus y. I dropped the hidden 1s. And that's just a problem you'll likely see in college where they have the x squared in the front and the y squared in the back. And I just wanted to make sure I showed you that before you go off to college. The same with this one. A squared in the front and b squared in the back. We're just going to add the letter like we did here for the y's into the back. We're going to add that in for the b's. Now, this problem is a little different. So let's go ahead and do the first thing that I said was to add the 0. In this case, it would be 0AB. Now, I don't want you to do this, I just want you to watch for a minute. If you multiplied 15 times 15, I think that's 225. Now watch this, don't write that yet. You notice the chart here only goes to 100. I will not give you a problem that goes over 100. So if your magic X has something over 100, then that means there's a GCF. And I think you can see the GCF. It's right here. See the 15? So we're going to have to factor out a 15. Okay, so we have a GCF of 15 here. Oops. So now we're back to the magic X. GCF first and then your magic X. Okay, there's hidden ones there, right? So what multiplies to -1 and gets us the 0? So it's the same problem as the other side. The only thing extra is the A and the B. So what multiplies to 1 and gets us to 0? It would be 1A plus 1B and 1A minus 1B. So +1 and -1. Let me erase this just to reinforce it. So 1 times -1 is -1 and gets us to 0. 1 minus 1 is 0. But since we have the b here, we add that to the back of the problem. Okay? And that would be our final answer. A plus b and a minus b. There are 2 problems just like these at the end of the homework where you have the extra letter in the back. Okay? I think we're done. Yeah, see right here, number 42 and number 41 have the extra letter in the back. So on this one, you want to first pull out the GCF of 12 and then do the magic X. And on this one, you want to pull out the GCF of 6 and then do the magic X. Okay? I have a feeling I forgot my GCF here. I did. Hold on. I forgot my GCF. Fix your notes here. I'm going to highlight that for you. I was off thinking about something else. Remember how we have to pull down and bring that GCF to the final answer? Fix your notes there. You have to have your GCF. My apologies. So this GCF of 15 has to come into that final answer, okay? Too early on a Monday morning, you guys. Okay. So then the magic X, okay? So you do the GCF first. So just don't forget to bring down that 12 into the final answer. Same with this one, okay? All right, all these other ones you should be fine. Remember to add 0x into the middle and then do the magic X. Obviously, if it's a different letter, you can add 0m, right? Just add the 0 in the middle. Okay? All right, thank you. Have a great day. Make sure you upload both this homework and your notes page to the digital workbook today during async time for grading. Thank you.